Later in the episode, their 50 heads had a hard time controlling their hundreds of hands. And they were feared because of how aggressive they ended up becoming because of that. They got locked away. The only thing they ever knew throughout their lives was misery of being locked away and shunned by their own parents.
That's why they're pissed off. When they get out, of course they're going to be swinging all,
yeah,
50,
and then
100 hands.
You know that phrase, you got the weight of the world on your shoulders?
Yeah.
You know where that comes from?
No, what?
It comes from Atlas, and it's actually a misconception.
I thought an atlas was a thing that you're reading to look at, like maps of the, different.
No, Atlas is, that is an Atlas, but Atlas the Titan. After the war with the Titans, Zeus condemned him not to hold the world on his shoulders, but to hold the sky and the heavens to separate them from the earth. So people have this misconception that Atlas is holding the world on his shoulders. He's actually holding the heavens.
Yeah, because I was kind of mixed up with it because I was kind of thinking of God of War in one scene. He's like holding everything up,
He technically is holding everything above Earth.
Why can't he just drop it?
I mean, I don't know how that works, but I don't believe he's allowed to.
Let's talk about this.
So, the second episode of the Greek Gods?
Yep, let's do it.
Greek Mythology Part 2?
Greek Mythology Part 2.
I'm Crollur.
And I'm Willy.
Thank you for tuning into our podcast. Obviously, today I'm going to be talking about Atlas. What are you going to be talking about?
Let's do Helios.
All right, so Atlas and Helios. I think I'm going to throw in a little bit about like the Hecatonchires and the Cyclopes and stuff. But
that'll be later on.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Atlas, being one of the Titans, ended up fighting Zeus. Not all the Titans fought Zeus, but Atlas was one of the ones condemned after some of them ended up being shoved back in Taurus, and some of them were forced into certain fates, as we'll put it. Atlas's was to hold the heavens from the earth upon his shoulders. He was condemned to stand at the western edge of the earth and then hold up the sky or the heavens on his shoulders to separate the heavens from the earth. And there are a couple of notable things that happened while he was doing this, because he was told once that a son of Zeus would trick him and steal his golden apples away from Atlas's daughter at Hera's garden. The first hero that Atlas ran into was Perseus, and Perseus wasn't after the golden apples, but he was afraid that Perseus was, so he refused Perseus's attention. And because of this, Perseus cursed him to become stone, and it said that he turned him into a giant mountain, where his head was the peak of the mountain. That was one notable thing that happened while he was holding up the sky. And then, of course, you had Hercules, which was another son of Zeus, who was after the golden apples.
There's two stories on this one.
One of them is that Hercules, or I should pronounce it properly, Hercules, made pillars to hold up the sky.
Right. To free them.
That goes against the rest of the stories that were told by a different person.
There's no way that, there's
especially
no
since
way.
Hercules got the apples.
I can see the first story where he just puts them down. He's like, hey, can I put some padding on my shoulders?
Yeah.
Like, hold this real quick.
Let me tell the whole story here.
All right.
Because he goes up to him and he wants the golden apples. And at first, Atlas is like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. And he's like, well, I'll take the weight of the sky off your shoulders. So he takes it for a bit, and then when he comes back, Atlas puts the apples down on the ground. And he's like, okay. And Gil's like, okay, I have to get some padding for my shoulders. And when he goes to do it, Atlas takes the weight of the sky back, and Hercules just runs off.
I like that version better.
To me, that's more poetic.
Yeah.
Which was the intent of the original thing. To have built up the pillars of Hercules is another story that may have happened.
See, I like these kind of stories with this Greek mythology because it just shows, people could be naive.
Yeah, those were the two big stories that I had looked into. So you wanted to talk about Helios?
Let's go with the Titans first. Because Atlas is a Titan. Let's talk about the Titans.
Well, what I was looking at for the Titans, because you asked a question on the last episode that we did. You asked like a lot about like why some of them were sent to Tartarus, some of them were given certain fates, and then some of them did side with the Olympians, like Zeus and them.
Mm-hmm.
Those were like Themis and her child Prometheus.
Cronus is a Titan, right?
Kronos is the Titan. He's also the father of Zeus.
Yeah, Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Hades, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, okay, so all these Olympians are part Titans, too.
Yeah, they're the children of...
The Titans.
Yes.
So it's a war between Titans and Olympians.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it all started because Zeus held a grudge with Kronos because he tried to eat him when he was a baby. And
yeah,
okay.
which was fear because the Titans themselves were locked away by their father.
Then Zeus released them and then was like, hey, you're on my side now. We're going to take out Kronos.
Zeus didn't release the Titans. Zeus released... the Titans were released by their mother.
Oh, Gaia, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zeus released
the Cyclopes.
The Cyclopes and the Hecatonchires.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Do any of these Titans have their own statues, or does any,
Well, I know Atlas has many statues.
Yeah, he has many statues, but...
One of the closest one I know of is in New York.
Oh, okay.
At the Rockefeller Center. At least to us, anyway.
Right. It's just, it's a very expensive statue during the Roman times, right? You know who else has a statue? Helios. Chares of Lindos created a statue of the sun god Helios, apparently. And it was one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Is it?
Well, that's what they claim to be, but too bad we'll never see it. It got destroyed by an earthquake.
I feel like there's too many wonders of the world.
Well, apparently it was pretty fucking big. It was 105 feet, but it got destroyed by an earthquake. That sucks.
So, what else do you know about Helios?
Well, he is the sun god, right? So
he carries the sun across the sky.
He gets on his 4 little horses with his little chariot, and he'll go from like east to west. Then, once sun sets, he does his job. He jumps on a freaking boat to Tartarus or whatever, and he'll take that boat back and start all over again. This guy is working like double time. Like he never sleeps or does nothing. His job is just carry that sun.
Now, from what I gather, Helios is different than the dawn, because every time like they talk about like the dawn in the Iliad and the Odyssey, they always talk about dawn reaching her fingers out, like the red or the gold from the morning. Mm-hmm. So Helios is mostly the bright sun across the sky. Is the guy that carries the bright sun across the sky. And dawn is a different entity in itself.
Yeah. He had I think he has like a wife or a sister, somebody that does the moon or whatever. He does the sun. But what's funny about him, he is very nosy when it comes to the other gods' business. Because he caught, what's her name? Fucking Aphrodite and Ares, doing it. And he's the one that turned them in. And that's how they, got caught. Because everything that happens in daylight, he sees everything. He has like hawk eyes.
Yeah, he's known to see everything under the sun, which is ironic.
Yeah, he's a fucking dick. Like he just like it's like all I'm telling
basically you don't get anything past Helios.
Yeah, basically. I thought it was kind of funny because but then later on, they replaced him with another guy called Apollo.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that, because they just straight up just replaced him. He never existed, after they brought in Apollo. Helios basically got kicked out and Apollo became the god.
Well, I don't know how much this is true. Apparently, one story says they fought each other and that Helios got kicked into the sun. And then another story says that Apollo and Helios made a deal in which Apollo took the sunlight itself and Helios took the sun, and that they took turns carrying it across the sky.
So it's very vague.
There's no official story from what I can tell.
Yeah. You can make up your own story on this one all you want. My story is that Helios just like fell off his chariot and fell in the ocean. Then Apollo just jumped on his chariot and took over.
Now, there is something to be said about the mixing of stories, too. Sometimes the mixing of stories, like Apollo and Helios, and then Apollo's sister, Selene, also got mixed in with Artemis.
Oh, yeah.
So there could be some crossover between who is who in the actual story.
So that's what's hard about, like, trying to talk about, like, this Greek mythology. There's, like, many different stories on one thing.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of the stories have, like, 2 different viewpoints, or more. So, I mean, at some point you had Homer, and then you had Hesiod, and they both had different viewpoints and had different takes on certain things. Like, their viewpoints on just the different gods created different stories, and they even talked like there are 2 different types of Cyclopses depending on whose story you were following. You got the Homeric Cyclopses and the Hesiod Cyclops. And one of those Cyclopses were the ones that Zeus actually freed from Tartarus.
Which one was it? The Homeric?
No, the Hesiod.
Wait, okay.
That was the one that Hesiod was talking about.
To me, it looks like they're just like a bunch of barbarian,
They're actually the ones that created the tools for the gods, like Zeus's lightning and stuff.
So he liked them. They're his, like, basically his workers. Then the Homeric.
Yeah, he freed them from Tartarus where they were locked away. Because they were first locked away by Uranus as he despised his children. And then they were locked away again by Kronos, who freed them only to think of them as...
So when they freed them from Uranus, do they just like crawl out of like a brown hole or what?
No, it's like a hellish prison.
Then what about the Homeric?
They are a race of Cyclops that were basically ignorant cattle herders, in which Odious ended up blinding one of them. And they were Poseidon's children.
Oh, okay. And from what I'm seeing now, they are very very like distant Cyclops. They just don't want to be bothered. But when people do show up on their land, they will eat them. Yeah,
they were a group of like man-eating Cyclopses, and Odysseus's group ended up swimming ashore and then took shelter in his cave in one of their caves. Ended up tricking the thing by feeding him wine, and then claiming that his name was Nobody. So when he got stabbed in the eye, his brothers came to his aid, and they're like, "Who has hurt you?" And he's like, "Nobody has hurt me." And they're like, "If nobody has hurt you, then we can do nothing for you." Yeah. And they walked away.
So those are the two different Cyclops, right?
2 that I'm aware of.
I have a third one.
You have a third one?
Yeah. It's called the Cyclopedian. Well, it's like not encyclopedian. Cyclopedian wall builders. They're basically like the scientists that work, like to build the walls. They're the smart ones. They're the ones that, they were basically the inventors.
I mean, that sounds like they might be the descendants of the other ones because they... Oh, shoot. That is a wall that you're showing me.
Yeah, they're the ones that came up with all the ideas of how to do stuff.
Interesting.
But I think they worked on like iron as well as bronze and walls and other monuments. They were just like the smart ones. And I think they were basically not included on your thing because I think they kind of lived among people. So I'm looking at Homer right now.
Yeah, he was just an ancient poet that wrote about the gods.
Yeah.
He actually wrote mostly about
I'm looking at a naked picture of him right now.
Interesting. He actually wrote mostly about the ancient Greeks and their interactions with gods. Like the Iliad is about them attacking the city of Troy, and then the Odyssey, which was another one of his works, was about Odysseus's travel home to his back to his home. Like
So it's kind of looking to me from what I'm reading with that about Homer. He's basically saying, remember we were talking about the Cyclopean wall builders?
Yeah.
That actually kind of sounds like you said there was two. You got the Homeric or Homeric or whatever, then you got the Hesidic or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think he made it out to be that the Cyclopean wall builders is us. We're the, Cyclops. We're the ones that invented all that shit.
I don't know. Like metaphor is a thing in Greek mythology.
I think that's why you would.
Which
never
I kind of want to
see
get to, and
Right.
when I talk about the Hecatonchires.
because you look anywhere, you don't really see a third, Cyclops.
I haven't run across it in any of my studies, but obviously, if you're looking at something there that says that they existed, so
Yeah, so I think that they're just trying to point out that we're part of the Cyclops, even though we got two eyes. I don't know. We're the ones that built the wall. We're the one that build walls. We're the one that invent stuff and stuff like that. I think this is kind of like with this story with the Cyclops, kind of like a Bible. They're just going to try to like.
they didn't really have so much as like an actual set religion thing. They mostly had stories and myths that they believed in, and it got passed down from generation to generation.
And that's why you get different stories every time.
Yeah. That and the fact that the poets wrote poems about the said stories, about the practices of the people and stuff like that.
Now, other than Cyclops, you wanted to talk about those, what are they called?
Hecatonchires?
Hecatonchires.
Do you know what they are?
I have an idea, but...
They have 50 heads and 50 pairs of hands, which makes them have 100 hands.
You ever watched the movie Croods?
Crudes? No. Why?
Well, they have this animal called a punch monkey. Can you imagine if they had like those kind of arms right there? They'll fuck you up.
Yeah, they're also known as the 100 Hands. And they were feared because their 50 heads had a hard time controlling their hundreds of hands. And they were feared because of how aggressive they ended up becoming because of that. They got locked away. The only thing they ever knew throughout their lives was misery of being locked away and shunned by their own parents.
And that's why they're pissed off. When they get out, of course, they're going to be swinging all, 50,
and then
100 hands.
They were released by Kronos, only to be put back because Kronos saw them as barbaric. It wasn't until Zeus released them, gave them orders, and told them that if you want your freedom, you earn it this way. He gave them something to strive for and treated them as equals.
So Zeus actually did something nice for once.
Yeah, I think a lot of his stuff came after he became the king of gods.
Yeah, but after a long time being king, that's when he, the power got to his head.
But before that, he actually treated the Hecatonchires as equals and let them fight alongside his fellow gods in the war against the Titans. He actually told them to free the Cyclopses and have them make the weapons for the gods. He had them throw rocks at the Titans. And they were big rocks.
How big were those?
Basically mountain-sized rocks, according to the stories.
Oh, yeah, that would knock you out.
There are some who believe in the metaphor. There are some who believe that the Hecatonchires metaphorically resemble the lower class, and that you got 50 different people trying to tell directions, and the hands are the different directions of where people want to go, and until they're given equal treatment and a leadership, they just fight and bicker amongst each other, and they're not capable of doing great deeds until they are treated as equals.
I'm gonna ask you one question though. Who's the one that built the gods' weapons? Was it the Cyclops or
the Cyclops?
Cyclops. Okay, that's why
they were freed from Tartarus, actually by the Hecatonchires, who were freed by Zeus.
And then they became the laborers, the Cyclops that worked with the Olympians.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then there's also the people. I want to go back to this metaphoric thing. There's also people who feel like they represent the many desires of men and the fact that we want to go in all different directions, like the hundreds hands of the Hecatonchires, and that we struggle with that. For their service to Zeus, they were given wives. At least I know one of them at least got wives. And they were given they were given their own like castles under
the sea.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Alongside Poseidon.
Yep. And that's why you see like Disney movies like Little Mermaid, they, talk about that, about what was that? Play Atlantia, but it was Atlantis and Poseidon story. So a lot of Disney movies came up with like a lot of these cartoons due to like Greek mythology and stuff like that. Do you want to give the audience a teaser of what you want to talk about on part 3 of the Greek mythology?
In a future episode, I kind of personally want to talk about Athena.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a really thorough one.
And then I also want to talk about
Hercules.
Yes,
Hercules, how he's a dick.
We want to go into like a lot of his different things.
Well, we're just gonna be roasting Hercules on the next Greek mythology episode.
I feel like you should pick up your own god that's outside of Hercules, though. Like Hercules was a demigod, so
right. I can come up with a demigod too, or we can talk about Greek heroes.
That would be demigods like Hercules or or other heroes like Odious and Achilles and stuff.
But that would be our next Greek mythology. Greek mythology.
Yeah, I think our next
video.
episode is going to be the next chapter in the Bad Guys series.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. But after we get these 2 episodes done, we're gonna have to have a Halloween episode.
I think we're gonna make that one into the Halloween episode. The Bad Guys.
Oh, the Bad Guys is gonna be.
Yeah.
Then after this, after everything's done with those 2, we want to go into something that might really surprise everyone.
I want to thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you haven't.
Or hit that
we have more episodes coming.
Hit that like bell or like button.
Yes. I've been Crollur.
And I'm Willy.
Peace.
Peace.
I said, are you ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.